What is up, everybody? Welcome to Revv Time. Today I want to talk about something I haven't done with the Revv D20 amp as far as how I've demoed it. I've of course played it this way myself on numerous occasions. I've had a lot of questions, or not questions as much as requests, that I just, guys are asking, what would this amp sound like just on an open back cabinet as a standalone amp? In other words, if they just wanted to show up with this amplifier and not really even use any pedals, what are the dynamics of it? What's the gain range of the amplifier as a standalone? And what does it sound like on the mic with an open back cabinet? So that's what I decided to do, is mic up an open back cabinet. I've got that in a separate room. It's a really simple open back kind of vintage style cabinet with a Celestion. Actually, it's got a creamback in it, a creamback 75. Normally, I do all of my demo videos, especially when I mic up a cabinet, there's a Celestion V30 in there. This one's actually a creamback, and it sounds really sweet, especially in the open back cabinet, and especially with this amplifier. So I thought I would just run through some sounds and let you guys hear this amp just as a standalone, strictly on the mics. So we won't be doing any of the embedded stuff, because you guys have heard that. You've heard how it responds to pedals. It loves pedals. But just as a standalone amp, how does it do? Because I really like using this for tracking, because it allows me to get all kinds of different varieties of tones just off the amp. From, if I need to overdub another part, or even the same part as a double, I can just change the settings on the amp, or just maybe simply switch guitars, or even just pickups in this case, and get different tones. So right now, this is how it's dialed up. I've got the volume all the way up, and that's pretty dang loud. Like, I can't really have it in this room because the neighbors they'd come after me with pitchforks. So it is in a separate room, mic'd up with my usual combination, which is Royer 121 and a Shure SM57. Having a hard time articulating today. So the way you're hearing it right now, it's pretty clean. Breaking up a little bit. But on this Stratocaster, running neck position, it's a fairly hot pickup. But the nice thing is, if I do want some bark, if I just want to hit this thing without changing anything on the amp and just throw to the back position to a humbucker, and I believe it's a Shawbucker in this guitar, so it's obviously louder, it has more output, but it's got some bark to it on its own. Now the delay you're hearing is actually in the old television set there in Pro Tools. It's the same delay I always use. It's just a simple kind of digital delay plug-in, kind of fast. But anyways, that's how the amp is responding right now to going from neck position to bridge. Now, if I want this to bark a little bit more, you can see where I have the mids set. I could turn those up a bit and get a little bit more of that kind of bark. And, it's to each his own, but I'll always say that mids are your friend, especially if you're playing in a band or in a session. That's what I would do with the mids. They still sound great here. But yeah, in a track, I would probably go the other way. Gives me a little more bark, a little more gain or overdrive without turning up the gain here. But if I go back to my neck position, it's still going to sound really sweet. Now if I want to go a little bit brighter and, you know, for both positions, I can turn the treble up. Now it's real chimey. It's created a little bit more gain. Just based on the circuit, I mean, that's really what it should do. If I go to the humbucker now, it's got a little bit more top end. But that's a cool kind of vintage, almost tweed style breakup we're getting out of it now. And keep in mind, with a 6v6 power section, you are going to hear some of that 6v6 breakup. If I turn it down, hear how there's less gain now? I mean, that sounds great and it's cleaner. And that would be pretty loud still if you wanted it to be cleaner. But if you want to hear those 6v6 kind of humming, turn it up and you're going to get that kind of vintage bark that 6v6s have. It's almost like a Marshall kind of bark that they give you over, you know, maybe EL30, or I should say EL84s. Now I can go ahead and start turning up gain. Now as I turn up the gain at the front here, I'll turn down a little bit of bass. And that actually sounds really great. Like if I was doing a track, you know, where I needed some kind of vintage crunch, that sounds really good. A little bit less bass. Feels really good too. It's got just the right amount of squish. So, you know, we can dime the mids. Maybe even a little more treb. So a setting like this, a lot of, you know, session cats, myself included, what they'll do is, yeah, roll the bass completely off. Because that's how these kind of 20-watt amps will respond. It's how it should respond. So it just depends on how you have it dialed. But even now, if I go back to the neck position, it still sounds pretty sweet. But back position, it'll make it bark. Now the other thing you can do, obviously this amp has a boost. So let's turn that on. Now you can hear, not only is it adding gain, but it's just kind of broadening everything. It is adding treble, so I might be more apt to kind of turn treb down a bit. Here's just neck position. So now it's got that top end kind of glassiness to it. And then you hit it with a humbucker. It's got that nice top end kind of bite now. Now as I keep cranking this up, I can start doing the same thing. I might turn down some bass. That's sounding really good. And if you're playing dynamically, now the other thing I can do, and it's just a trick that, you know, a lot of players will do, is they'll roll off the tone on their bridge position pickup, because on this guitar, this tone control only affects the bridge. So if I feel like it's getting a little too toothy when I've got it dialed up really good for my neck position, but in the bridge, maybe that's a little too bright, then I'll go ahead and roll the bridge off. Now it sounds a little more balanced, but you know, that's to each his own, but that's what I do. I just wanted you guys to hear how the D20 sounds, no pedals. What are some of the sounds and gain ranges you can get out of this amplifier mic'd up with an open back cabinet? So it'll just give you a little bit different flavor as far as how you've heard this amplifier. Maybe give you a little bit better idea of how it sounds as a standalone. Now obviously we could add pedals to this, we can put delays and verbs and things like that in the effects loop. But just as a standalone, this amp's capable of quite a broad range of gain and tones. So thanks so much for watching, and we will see you next time.